Russ of Soul Pilot with my sidekick Mike, the founder of Jam-ology. And we have today our good buddy Frank Caruso from Flagler Radio Station, 88.5,
Right.
as well as a fellow member of the St. Augustine Jazz Society.
Right.
You know, we had met at the Jazz Society when I took part in doing some playing there. Frank, welcome, and tell us a bit about the Jazz Society. What does it do?
Well, the Jazz Society started about 33 years ago by Ed Trester, and Eddie wanted to promote jazz, swing, that type of music. I mean, he was an old-time player from going back, and I had belonged to a few different clubs and organizations like that. My father had the Citrus Jazz Society in Homosassa, Florida, and he also had a jazz society up in Alaska that he had done.
What was his instrument?
He was mostly drums, like myself. I'm mostly drums, but I started on trumpet and got into a little trombone years ago because of the fact that I was 8 years old and I was in part of a drum and bugle corps at that time.
I know a lot of great drummers that started in the drum and bugle corps.
Yeah.
And,
That
So
was a fun situation. And I had a guy by the name of Red Gensch who had a group called the Red Devils. And
that was the drum and bugle corps?
that was the drum and bugle corps.
Yeah, there was a bunch in New Jersey where I grew up, And,
Yeah.
and everybody was, a lot of a lot of great drummers started their whole world in drum bugle corps and knowing all their rudiments and stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the key. I mean, you got to learn your rudiments,
Of course.
and that is absolutely what my father emphasized
Right.
a lot. On that situation. He used to have me practice on pillows just to strengthen my wrists.
Right. Yeah, I remember people doing that. I mean, we kind of come from the same neck of the woods. You're Long Island, right?
Yeah.
And I'm New Jersey.
Well, Long Island had a lot of music at the time, in New York City, of course.
Of course. But,
so I was weaned on so much of the good music that we had in New York. We used to go to the Fillmore East, the midnight concerts. That you'd go there at midnight and come out stoned in the morning at 6 in the morning, and then the sunlight used to just hit you. Let's hit the diner.
Right, of course. Yeah, nothing closes in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do late night gigs and still find places to eat.
We used to go out in Hempstead. We saw Billy Joel when he was first starting out, and some of the guys that were there.
Well, even Long Island had Sonny's Place. I remember.
Yeah,
playing
Sonny's Place was
Place.
that was one of the few places that really played jazz.
Right.
There was
but
also,
New York, we'd spend hours listing all the jazz clubs and live music venues that, existed in New York.
Yeah.
I think some of them have gone by the wayside, like the Bottom Line, and I think B.B. King's just closed as well. But that's kind of a little bit of the state of affairs on live music. But we're changing that in St. Augustine.
Well, we hopefully will. I mean, one of the things that I want to do with the Jazz Society, at least, is to bring out something that would make it a permanent situation, is having a jazz festival.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when we started the conversation, when at the last jazz festival, while you guys were busy jamming on the stage.
Yeah, the jazz jam.
Yeah.
Right.
Frank and I were having a chat there, and I said to him, I've worked on festivals in the past, and it's something that I really like to do. It brings a lot of people together. And then he says, yep, that's where he's at. That's what he's thinking about. So the idea of let's sit down and have a conversation and see, because St. Augustine, they want to focus on the arts and the music, and what better way to do it than to put together a festival that draws people from all over, but also, along the lines of funk, jazz and blues.
Right.
That'll bring the younger folk as well as those that...
it all has the underlining thread of being blues-based anyway, which is the American thread, musical thread to everything that we have that's American.
Right.
Whether it's country or rock or R&B or soul, it all has a blues base.
Right.
Jazz or funk, it's just that, younger generations, might not relate to swing, but they'll relate to funk. Well, the changes may be the same, but the feel is different.
Well, you got some pretty good big bands that are out there, like the WDR band that is out in Europe, and now that what's his name from the Yellow Jackets is heading it up.
Russell Franti?
No, that's
Oh
Russ.
no, I know Yellow Jackets. Oh,
Yeah,
it'll come to me.
But he's heading
Right.
it up, and then you have one of the guys that I know. I know Bernie Dressel, who plays drums out there. He's worked with Gordon Goodwin's big
Right.
band. And
But the youth, I mean, every 10 years there's a new generation, and what used to be called jazz is now called jam, and you have bands like Soul Live and Lettuce and Snarky Puppy. They're still playing jazz. They're blowing over changes. They're improvising. They're
Right.
making new music every time they're out, which is what really, quote, jazz is.
Improvisation.
Is improvisation, making things new again every time out. Which happens in rock and roll as well,
Right.
Or fusion, which was kind of like
every music is fusion in a way,
Right.
If you
It's
want to say
fusing
that,
one-
because
right.
we're using things that are. If you listen to some of those bands, you're hearing a lot of that bebop era.
Of course, and
You
and
know.
it's a lot of it is attitude. It's the attitude. It's what Miles changed the attitude from being cool jazz, right, to bitches brew, and that launched the fusion where younger people who were improvising, but now they're improvising through distortion pedals or phase shifters and a little bit of a newer sound.
Right.
And so every generation has that. Now, there are younger players that are they're jazz bands or jam bands, but their DNA is different than ours
Right.
because you and I didn't grow up listening to hip hop.
Right.
Okay, so they bring the hip hop element.
Right.
Okay, and they mix it with maybe the Tower of Power element, which is part of our generation.
Right.
And the James Brown thing, and you have the likes of Lettuce, which is a band of original people from, actually went to my alma mater, Berklee College of Music, and then they go by the name Lettuce, the vegetable. I guess
Right.
it's a vegetable, right? But that's not how they got their name. They would go to jam sessions as a group and keep saying, "When are you going to let us play?" and then it got spun into here's that Lettuce band again, So, but they're a funk-based band. I know that I know the family and the drummer, and his dad and mom were both drummers at Berklee with me, and so he grew up listening to Tower of Power and Tony Williams and hip hop.
Right.
Well, I've never listened. I mean, I listen to hip hop, but not like it's not my DNA.
Right.
Our DNA is different. So every generation brings something, but the big thing is it's all improv.
Right.
Hence, jazz. Jazz is not a affliction. It's just a concept.
Yeah.
It's a concept. But whether you're playing against a funk thing or a bossa thing or a salsa thing or a fatback, it's improvisation.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do with the Jazz Society is and I'm going to discuss this. We have a board meeting tonight, and I said, one of the things I used to do. I don't know if you knew Scott Ambush.
No.
Scott plays the bass with Spyro Gyra.
Okay.
And Scott and I, we used to hang out when I started working in the D.C. area, up in the town of Frederick up there. And Scott comes from there. And our rhythm section, we'd get together an hour ahead of time and figure out, like we were talking about, what are we going to do, types of rhythm. If we do some standards, we got to change it up. We're going to do. That's why I love guys like Jamie Cullum and some of those guys that are out there who are changing the sound of jazz.
Right. The feel, the attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, and you saw it just as simple as this last time we were there. We did a bunch of swing tunes, and as soon as we started kicking in Watermelon Man,
Yeah.
and the feel changed, everybody went, whoa, and Watermelon Man's an old tune.
Yeah.
We're not talking. We're talking about
Mango
a tune
Santa Maria.
That's right. We're talking like a 30-year-old tune, but the groove changed, and all of a sudden it woke people up. Yeah. So it's just putting a spin on an old concept.
Yeah,
of
I wanted to
improvisation.
play to that because I would have funked it up a little bit,
Put
and
it
I
up
said-
some more.
or either that, I should have brought my congas. Or
There you go. But anyway, Mike, I'm going to toss it to you.
No, I just I'm glad that we chatted because I think that most definitely we're going to bring about this fusion of music
Right.
in St. Augustine, and for those people that are interested in wanting to come together and say let's make it happen, very open to that. And,
Well, I mean, there's no reason
yeah.
why jazz or festivals should only be based on Saratoga or Newport.
Newport, right.
Okay,
Right.
it shouldn't. This is the oldest city, so let's make it new
well, you
again.
have the New Orleans Jazz Fest.
Right, and they have one in Jacksonville. They have a good jazz.
They have
jazz
one in
festival.
there, and they also have one in Daytona.
Right.
And we don't.
And we don't.
One of the things I'm trying to make an appeal to people out there is to at least think about sponsorship,
Right.
getting involved, and talking to us over at the Jazz Society, or talking to Mike. And I mean, we're all going to be involved in this whole thing, and we're trying to work with people who are
Of like minds.
of like minds, right? And people who are going to promote
Right.
the music.
Yeah, passion and purpose. You know,
Right.
be passionate about it, and you've got a purpose, and that purpose is to make it happen effectively and continuously. Because
Well, the other thing I want to make a quick mention. You're on the air.
Right.
88.5, Flagler.
Flagler College Radio, WFCF.
Okay.
It's an iHeart radio station, so you can listen to that anywhere in the United States. And all you have to do is download your iHeart Radio app and just look for our station.
And you're on.
5 to 7 on Mondays. And my show is called Unfiltered Jazz.
Okay.
And because I call it Unfiltered Jazz, because I'm not doing the standard jazz or smooth jazz as
Song
people,
list. Okay.
song list. And I'm just playing things that people might find interesting that are related to the jazz sound.
Well, when I was there chatting with you, you were doing Motown,
Right.
and you were educating a bunch of different, the Funk Brothers and
And
their
the backup
contributions.
singers that were there,
Right.
Joan Osborne and a few of the other people that used to be backup singers
Right.
with that. Now this week I'm going to be doing the sax record history, a little bit of that. I try to put on live recordings.
Oh, that's good.
And
So-
I try to look for live recordings of featured artists because I find the live recordings are so unique.
Right. Yeah. Well, it brings a certain amount of realism to it.
Yeah,
Because it's
absolutely.
not processed through a studio. There's no, there's no time frame. It'll go where it goes, as live music should.
Right. And that's what I hope people would come and
And-
see when we put on a jazz festival.
And it's real music, and no one's singing through tuners, and no one's doing dance steps.
Yep, and they're not doing the overdubs.
That's
and,
right. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I spent so much time listening to the Miles Quintet, which were all live, and they were just, whether they played Stella by Starlight every night, it was different.
It was different every night.
Yeah, and the surprises always came, and I think that's what intrigued maybe you as well. I know me is that I could go to the Fillmore and hear a band, and they were completely different the next time you heard them.
Right.
It was not a cookie cutter. Okay, they're going to play the same songs and the same ending with the same this, the same that. It just kept going, and a lot of that was kind of blues based. Whether it was B.B. King, but it was blues based, or Paul Butterfield, or the Blues Project, and then hence it kind of segued me into Wes Montgomery and Miles and Jimmy Smith, and because it was that improv thing. I mean, I remember even the Yardbirds, they called it a rave up, but it was a big improvisation.
Right.
Let's go crazy for a minute and make it up, and then come back to the song. So, well, I'm looking forward to more connections here and getting some stuff going
Yeah.
in St. Augustine.
Yeah. And the people out there should contact us if you would like at the Jazz Society. You can write to us, and we'll come down on the last Sunday of every month at the Royal St. Augustine Golf and Country Club.
Right.
And,
So remember that.
2 to 5.
2 to 5. You may see me there as well.
Yeah.
you might be there jamming on the floor.
Yeah, just like I
Like
did
you
last time.
Yeah. Were you playing?
No,
No.
I'm on the technical side of things. Yeah.
I guess the man behind the desk over there, we're going to do a wrap up now. So we're going to wrap it up. Till next time, tune in to Jam-ology.